Last week, I took a look back at Marvel's The Incredible Hulk, the film that celebrated its 10-year anniversary this month. I talked about a lot in that video, what I thought about the film, why I think other people don't remember it as well as other films in the cinematic universe. But you see, when talking about The Incredible Hulk, I did what a lot of people do when discussing that movie, which is bring up the other Hulk movie that also came out in the 2000s. Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk movie is widely regarded as one of the worst superhero movies ever made, and its failure cast such a large shadow that it eventually overshadowed Marvel's attempt at bringing the character to the screen 5 years later. In preparation for my retrospective on The Incredible Hulk, I actually watched both films back to back. My original idea was to do more of a comparison video and see how the two films stacked up against each other. For timing reasons, I chose to only focus on Marvel's Incredible Hulk movie, especially because it had just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. But as luck would have it, it is also the 15th anniversary of Ang Lee's Hulk movie, which is great because there's actually a lot to say about this film, especially because I don't think it's that bad. Seriously, I don't. Hulk, as it's officially known as, was released in 2003 and directed by Ang Lee. It starred Eric Bana as Bruce Banner, the Hulk, Jennifer Connelly as Betty Ross, Sam Elliott as Thunderbolt Ross, and Nick Nolte as Bruce's father David. The film is actually an origin story about how Bruce Banner became the Hulk. While experimenting with gamma radiation, Banner accidentally exposes himself to a massive amount of gamma rays. Instead of killing him, he actually gains the ability to turn into a giant green monster whenever he's stressed or angry. This leads him into conflict with General Ross and the military, who view him as a threat, Major Glenn Talbot, who wants to use Banner's research for financial gain, and David Banner, who gains gamma-induced abilities of his own and harbors a dark secret from Bruce's past. The film received a lot of mixed to negative reaction when it first came out. A lot of people criticized the movie for being way too long, way too talky, and way too serious. It did okay at the box office, but nothing to write home about. It was deemed successful, but not successful enough to keep the series going as it was. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a very hard movie to defend, especially watching it immediately after Marvel's 2008 attempt. The flaws of this film stand out even more so. For one thing, this movie is slow as hell. Banner doesn't turn into a Hulk until 40 minutes into the film's runtime. That's almost half the length of the entire picture. I'm normally a fan of slow burns like in Superman the movie and Batman Begins, but this felt absurdly long. And that's mostly because the story is incredibly dense. The film is trying to pack in a lot of information into such a short runtime. Banner's experiments, turning into the Hulk, his relationship with Betty, General Ross's involvement with all this, Glenn Talbot's involvement with all this, his father's involvement in all this. It's also not really made clear why Banner turns into the Hulk the first time. He's not particularly angry at anything, he just looks like he's having a panic attack for no reason. And the final fight with his dad at the end of the film is confusing as all hell. In fact, not a lot of the David Banner storyline works in this movie. It was an attempt by the filmmakers to add an extra level of depth and tragedy to Bruce's story, but it just winds up feeling tacked on and very heavy-handed, especially at the end when David Banner goes full absorbing man. There's not a single ounce of levity in this movie. People complain about Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman being too serious, but those movies look like Judd Apatow films compared to this. There are no light moments in this movie, no jokes, everybody takes their role so goddamn seriously. The only exception is Josh Lucas as Glenn Talbot. He seems to be the only person who realizes what kind of film he's in, but because everybody else is so restrained in their performances, he comes off as overacting and very cartoonish. Also, Ang Lee thought it would be a really good idea to do these comic book style transition and panel effects on screen to make the movie feel more like a comic book. It works less than half the time. Most of the time, it just feels unnecessary and actually kind of distracting. It doesn't fit a lot of the scenes he's using it in. The special effects on a whole aren't that great either. The Hulk himself looks fine as a character model, but when he jumps and glides through the air weightlessly, it just looks weird, and he does that for a lot of the film. And this part, that's a very bad effect. So by now you're probably thinking, Will, you just spent the past however many minutes dumping on this film. What's left for there to defend? Well, a lot actually. While yes, the film is very slow, especially in the beginning, once Bruce becomes the Hulk, it picks up pretty quickly, and the rest of the film is very interesting. The action scenes are very well done, shot in a way that's both exciting and tense. You want to root for Banner, while at the same time you're scared that he's going to lose control completely and hurt somebody. And yes, this includes the fight with the Hulk dogs. Shut up. And the story is different among superhero films even to this day. It does a very good job of getting into Banner's head and showing you why he's so angry, why he has all this pent-up aggression, and his struggles with keeping his monster at bay. I know I said before that the father-son stuff didn't really work in the picture, but that's really only pertaining to the modern day stuff with Nick Nolte. The flashbacks to Bruce's childhood is very good and presents his trauma in a unique and frankly horrifying for a superhero film way. And aside from Nick Nolte and Josh Lucas, the rest of the principal cast are amazing in their roles. Overall, Eric Bana isn't as good of a Bruce Banner as Edward Norton was or as Mark Ruffalo is, and when he's transforming or getting angry, he doesn't really look like he's angry, he just looks like he's having trouble breathing, but he does a very good job of portraying the sadness and tender side of Bruce Banner. You really get to feel for the guy as you're watching the movie. Now, Sam Elliott isn't necessarily a better General Ross than William Hurt. I actually like them both about the same. However, William Hurt is a much more thoughtful and plotting General Ross. Sam Elliott is a menacing and angry General Ross. You do not want to get on this guy's bad side. He is excellent in the role. And nobody wears a mustache like Sam Elliott. To me, the real standout performance is Jennifer Connelly. Nothing against Liv Tyler. I love Liv Tyler, but Jennifer Connelly's Betty Ross blows hers out of the water. Part of it is because here, the role is much better written. While in The Incredible Hulk, she felt like an accessory to Bruce Banner's character, here, she feels like a character in her own right, given agency and drive. And Connelly pulls it off perfectly, injecting her character with the love and concern for not just Bruce, but also her father, and that's the type of thing you want to see in a character like Betty Ross. And also, Jennifer Connelly just, I mean, come on, man, Jennifer Connelly. My God. It's all of these reasons why I ultimately think Ang Lee's Hulk movie is a good one. It's not better than Marvel's attempts with the character, and I wouldn't begrudge anybody for thinking this is a bad movie. It's certainly not what most people expect from a superhero film. But to me, what it does well, it does very well, and I applaud it for taking risks and trying new things with the genre, especially at a time when casting Ben Affleck as a superhero was considered trying new things. And nowadays, casting Ben Affleck as a superhero is considered a risk. Heyo! 15 years later, I still believe that Ang Lee's Hulk movie is a good one, and I recommend giving it another shot. If you stick with it, you will be treated to a unique portrayal of one man's struggle with his inner demons. And sometimes he turns into a big green monster. In fact, there's actually a really fun game you can play. This movie ends in South America, and Marvel's Incredible Hulk begins in Brazil. So in a way, you can treat Ang Lee's Hulk movie as a prequel to Marvel's Hulk movie. Just ignore all the contradictory parts, like the fact the accident is different, that Talbot dies in this movie, but he's alive in the MCU, Banner's entire backstory, but other than that, it lines up. But what do you guys think about Ang Lee's Hulk movie? Do you prefer the Marvel version? Do you think Ang Lee's film is underrated, or do you think it deserves all the scorn it gets? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. I promise no more Hulk videos, at least for a while, because next week is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's time for an Ant-Man video. Don't get too excited now. Of course, new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's Wulff Den Live, so subscribe to see all of that, like this video, and share it with a friend. A friend who also thinks Ang Lee's Hulk movie is underrated and needs someone to help validate their opinion. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.